Hello, guys. Welcome again to Ball of a Passion. My name is Karan, joined by Priv Arsenal Z and George. It's been an interesting amount of time since we've all been here live. We've been talking, doing different things. We've all seen my meltdown at the Euros final, which we'll get onto. But how is everyone doing? How are we doing?
Good, mate. No complaints. Healthy and nothing crazy. I think there's a lot of anxiety preseason. I'm sure we'll get there. But mate, the football off season has been awesome for me. I don't know if everybody loves it or not, but to go from Euros to then preseason and then to the
Yeah.
game starting, I'm loving that. So yeah, doing good, mate.
I mean, go on, Z, first. Get your stuff out, mate.
Man, I don't know where to start, where to finish, man, bro. It's so hot outside. My brain is fried, mate. But no, honestly, I was just watched the Rangers game, and there's a lot of things to talk about from that game.
Yep, for sure.
But there was a lot more positives than negatives, for sure. Especially.
Well, we're going to get onto all of it. We're going to talk. We're going to talk Euros, the final. We're going to talk the Hibs game, the Rangers game, some transfer talk. That's the main thing of today. But let's start with, obviously, everyone saw the video. I mean, everyone saw me melt down a bit. I'm not going to lie, I was a fair few in at that point. So, yeah, first of all, obviously, Bukayo Saka. I mean, he had one hell of a tournament. Let's be real.
Mm.
And go for it, guys. Have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, I mean, look, Euros wise, look, I'm disappointed for you guys. I don't have that same investment, obviously, because I'm not English. But they were my team, they were my pick and the ones to do well in it. It's just, for me, I think that's all on Southgate in terms of management.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Bukayo should have started, very simple.
Yes,
and you can't kind of go from literally relying on him throughout the knockouts to then benching him, and then at 60 minutes to have him come on, try to save you, and then go on beyond that to then give him the most decisive penalty. Where, look, why don't we just talk about it? Because that was a lot, right? I don't want to keep it Bukayo-centric because it is an Arsenal channel, but I really feel as though he made the changes too late. He came on with subs, should have started the game, should have put on the pressure. And in terms of the penalty thing, look, coaches decide order kind of well in advance. And so I'm not too upset at them taking the penalty because these are young studs who will demand the ball. And by the way, I wanted Rashford to take a penalty. He's excellent. He's got great ball striking ability. And the fact that you miss a penalty, I don't think then makes you shit. What I'm annoyed with is why give the pressure as a coach and as a manager to be fifth choice to a youngster who's never had a professional penalty in his career. He may be great at training, and he may have been the best set piece specialist in training, but factually, the poor kid has not had a professional penalty career. There's not even one that he's taken.
No.
And so
I don't even think you took him in the academy.
Managerial, it's a disaster class, mate. I don't know what else to say, because as a manager, you make decisions. But also, really quickly, I want to praise Italy because throughout the entirety of that tournament, they've had the most drilled team. And to lose Spinazzola, by the way, and Chiesa, who left midway through the game, okay? Their two best players and thrusts, and to still hold it out, that's immense, mate. When you lose your two prime players in a tournament that is about moments, it's crazy to me that they ended up winning. So credit to them. Donnarumma, amazing on penalties. I told everybody about Donnarumma and penalties. I told everyone that if it was going to go to penalties,
he's
that
massive.
Man,
he's massive.
But he's good, mate. Curran, he has a record that he's been great at penalties. It's one of his strengths. He has a very good penalty record. So, for me, I'm really disappointed for you guys. I thought you guys would win it. I was convinced you would win it, but really, this was a case of a manager screwing up for me overall in the game. But give the plaudits to Italy; they deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let his ego, but just to reaffirm this, the abuse he's got is ridiculous. The abuse that other people have got is ridiculous. And the one thing that pisses me off more than anything about this is that he had 3 youngsters, one after the other, take a penalty. You had Sancho, Rashford, and Saka at the end. Like, why? Like, you have Luke Shaw, you have Stones,
Grealish,
Sterling,
mate.
Grealish. There is so many players you could have given. Even Pickford might have been better. You know, it would have been like, I'm not. I know it's a bit of a moot point, but Pickford, he just saved a couple of penalties as well. Maybe he would have been. He had the confidence up and taken a better penalty. But before I give my final thoughts on the Euros, I'll give it to Z and see what he thought about that game.
I mean, to be fair, that game, I don't know where to start again because I was so excited about that game. I sat down with all my family, you know, we were so excited and optimistic about that game. And then very quickly, that lineup, I mean, when it came out, I was thinking maybe Southgate knows something that we don't. But very quickly, after the first 20 minutes, we realized, I mean, I think Southgate just did a pep. You know, he took out the main strengths out that team and he gave it to Italy. And from how we saw Spain play against Italy, I thought we would look at that same thing and say, you know what, let's dominate the ball. And we have better players, we have more potent players, so let's dominate the ball and actually finish them off. But it seems like we gave the game to Italy. We let them have the ball, and in the end, you know, we lost our concentration in that game. And I don't know, it just seemed like we were out of it for majority of the game, and we rolled our luck till the penalties. To be fair, even if we won on penalties, I would have said we didn't deserve to win it, because if we look at that game, no, we didn't do enough to win. So overall, it's actually really, really sad for, you know, the country and everyone that supported England that we didn't win. But it has to go down to the manager. I mean, how can he let Saka, Sancho, and Rashford take the penalty in one of the biggest finals in England's history? It's beyond me. So I don't know. I don't know what you think, Corin. You've seen the abuse that these players have been getting?
Yeah, I mean, I was there.
Corin,
I was
like really quickly, like, you know what, Rashford. Okay, Rashford was logical to me because look, he's young but he's experienced. And he's good at penalties. Like Rashford, I got. What I didn't understand is Sancho and Saka. At least Sancho has had even. Saka's the most puzzling one of them all because at least Sancho has taken a penalty in his career. By the way, he's taken one. So if you want to take a chance, look, he's been lighting it up in training. He just got his big move. Okay. But also you're not going to start him. And then you want him to take a decisive penalty. Like that's where I draw the line about logic. It does not make sense in any sense. And then when you put on Bukayo, you put Bukayo, you start him out at the wing, and then you do the same thing that we've done when we're screwing up. You add another attacker and you put him at 10 in a team that he's never played 10 with. No. It's just, it was totally a man. You know what it was? Sorry, Kern, to cut you off again, but it was like, it was a manager floundering. It was a manager saying, oh shit, I'm losing it. I'm losing momentum. Who, by the way, started bright. Like you guys were, I was like, oh my God, my prediction is going to be right. They're going to smoke them. The
Shaw goal, you should have seen it. I wish I could have filmed. It was mental.
But mate, even the press was immense. Calvin Phillips was stepping high. Declan Rice was up for it. Declan Rice had a great game.
He did.
Who had been poor most of the tournament, in my opinion, but was having a great game. Kane looked on it. He wasn't just losing the ball. Kane was picking up pockets and kind of playing people in, whereas throughout the tournament, I would argue he would drop deep and then lose it. And so I was like, oh my God, they're really going to do well. And then after, I would argue, I don't know about you guys, but 15, maybe 20 minutes, England took the back seat. England let Italy dictate. And when you let Italy dictate, that's literally the worst thing you can do. They showed it all tournament. They rip people apart if you let them dictate. If you step to them, they crumble. So I don't know, mate. I was very frustrated for you guys because this was the best time for you guys to win it in, I'd say, 80 years.
Ever. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to move on, but before I do, just some final thoughts. Wembley itself wasn't as bad as people. I mean, from what I saw, I mean, obviously when I got home and things I was seeing on social media during the day, it looked horrible. But in terms of like the vibe, like at Wembley Way and going down, it was perfectly cordial. It was a couple of drinks spilled and, you know, the usual stuff, but it seemed fairly cordial. It was only when things went badly that, I mean, you guys, both of you, I've messaged both of you. when I was leaving. I was like, bro, I'm out. I got my brother to pick me up. I was out as soon as I could, and I had my friends getting an Uber as soon as I could, because I do not want to stay around there. The abuse obviously is mental. Online, I don't even know what to say anymore. Everything that's been said has been said. Just stop it, guys. It's not worth it. Like, who, you know what I mean? It's just not. It's not worth it. It's not worth wasting your time and it hurting people immensely and affecting their mental health. But on a lighter note, it's time to talk about our favorite topic, which is Arsenal Football Club. I mean, for good or for better or for worse. So where do you want to start? Preseason or transfers, lads? I think preseason we can go first, because transfers are going to take a long time. So Hibs game. Let's talk about the Hibs game. Are we all losing our minds, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Z. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. Do I want to be part of that meltdown? No, I certainly do not. I think when I looked at the game, we just looked like that Hibernian team were much fitter than us, and that's like very much it. To be fair, you could say we only trained with in preseason for 2-3 days, and there's a lot of players that didn't even look up to it. But even today against Rangers, it was the same thing. So I don't know. There's not even really much to say about that. Really, I don't know. How can you actually dissect that game? It was just purely for fitness, no?
Mate, I've got a lot to say, because I've got people telling me that there's so many conclusions that you can draw from a first week of preseason. And I'm sorry to be that kind of elitist, but it shows that you haven't played the game at any level at all.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at preseason, people mistake it for fitness. And it's not just fitness. It's footballing decisions. Mm-hmm. When you have been out of the game for about a month, what you lose is the speed of thought, the automatisms that you gain during league play. And so there's one instance today that I want to highlight, because it shows this point. Reece Nelson, I think later in the half at like the 80th minute, around there, Williams on the overlap, and he receives it at that D mark, and he just makes a pass that's so short to Willian, and he doesn't get there. That quick speed of thought that he holds on to has to be released quicker. And that's the kind of things that you lose in kind of going on vacation, right? Like those are the split second margins, and you're just slow to decision making consistently. So that's what you do when you're building preseason. Just a couple facts for people, by the way. Hibs season starts next week. So in terms of preseason, they're at the end. It was very deliberate that we asked for Hibs first, and then we faced the Scottish champions, who, by the way, went invincible last season, in case people don't know. And, you have Tavernier, who everyone was telling me was going to be we should scout for a right back position,
100%.
Who did nothing. And I'm just looking at this preseason where it's very calculated. We've chosen a very tough schedule. And I want to make the point that if you actually look at this preseason, it was very, very calculated. We took the first team was somebody done who was well along in their process. Okay? Now, after that, we then chose the Scottish champions who went invincible. Okay? We used this Scottish preseason camp as a physical test. Make no mistake about it. So while we're working on our counter press and our build up, which are just patterns of play, we use the Scottish preseason to attack the physical portion of the game to get us ready for Premier League football. Then we're going to go to America, and we're going to face Inter Milan. What is that going to teach you? Well, Inter Milan were the Serie A champions, but also what it's going to teach you is mid-block or low-block attacks. And I was trying to tell this to people that we're going to have the ball mainly because we're a possession-based team. But what we're going to look at is we're choosing Inter Milan because they have a counterattack potential. And
I'm surprised we're not playing Man United.
Well, exactly. And so what you're looking at is a very and then you're ending with Spurs, lovely jubbly. You have a derby game. Everyone's going to be up for it. You've now prepared your team physically and against a low block right before the start of the season, and you're ending on a huge top six club clash that, by the way, guys, forget preseason. Anytime you face a rival like that,
it's done.
Both
done.
sets,
We have to win.
It's all holds bars, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I just saw this preseason. I was like, wow, that is ballsy from Mikel. That's a very tough preseason, but it was very calculated in what he wanted to do. When you start Hibs with a 4-4-2, and I'm sorry I'm ranting, but I'm just telling people that wasn't our formation. He was coaching a counter press, guys. He literally used that as an outdoor session to coach a counter press because he lined us up in a 4-4-2, and that was our counter press that we then used today. And it just frustrates me because in the second half, we then kind of switched back to our normal formation. And I was like, Okay, so he used the first half to teach players in that half about the counter press. Cool. Like I do that for my kids. Like I organize games and I tell them to do a formation so that they can learn a skill. Okay, that's what it was. It wasn't about analyzing patterns of play. It's not about analyzing results. By the way, Borussia Dortmund lost to VfL Bochum, 3-1. The Chelsea result, respect, like they won 6-1, but it was against Peterborough United, just promoted to the championship. That's not the same level as the Scottish champions who just went invincible. I'm just seeing a lot of like crazy takes that ultimately the first week of preseason, you cannot expect performance levels. Okay. What you expect in the first preseason is fitness and getting used to the ball again. And I think what you actually noticed in this game, if you want to compare to Hibs, at least personally, I saw the counter press and build up be a lot more crisper, but I saw passing be way more crisp in this game. And I love that because we're keeping the ball on the ground. I think my biggest critique last season, and even like Thomas Partey, who I love, he would not keep the ball on the ground all the time.
He'd go aerial, he would float balls up.
And I saw a change, though, this preseason. And the only reason I highlight him is because I think he's an example of somebody who I said last season wasn't fit, but is fit now. Did you guys see those shots on goal? That's not coincidence.
That free kick he blasted at
Mate, to be fair, he's learned how to shoot now.
They all look a lot more aggressive. They all look more aggressive on the ball with more intention on the ball. I think what we need to have a difference. We need to think about the difference between the Hibernian game and the Rangers game, because the Hibernian game can be compared to when we played MK Dons, Boreham Wood, Barnet throughout the years. It's just that first game, so I never really looked at it like that. But the Rangers game was the first time we actually played like a physical team at a good level for the first time during
that counter press was on it.
So for me, when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this could give us a good sense of direction of where we want to go. And in that first half, I saw us pressing till those players lost the ball. I mean, even on Rangers TV, when they were doing their analysis, they were saying they couldn't keep the ball for a few seconds because Arsenal were onto it like hotcakes. So that to me shows if this is something that we're going to develop on, and that includes on fitness and includes on more tactical nuance on the game, I think what, by the time the Premier League starts, we'll be in a good way, 100%, even with better players on the pitch.
Yeah, mate, you're exactly right. It's the intent. And so I saw it as a natural progression, mate. And everyone keeps saying that I'm just really positive, but I was very clear. The first week of preseason, I ignore. I want to see the counter press. That was what I wanted to see. And so I really looked carefully. And then I saw the build-up today to combine with the counter press. And you know who looked unbelievable today, in addition to Thomas Partey? Emile Smith-Rowe. Those two together, they were my picks of the preseason in terms of best performers from a starter perspective, because Emile Smith-Rowe has started shooting, guys. That's going to become very scary. I know I told everybody he doesn't have the strength to do it, but that pop shot off when Aubameyang missed an open goal, but he's down on the wing and he takes a shot really quickly with short backlift, and Aubameyang missed kind of the open goal, which was a bad miss. But mate, if he does that in the Premier League and he's starting to shoot more, it's very scary about his potential and what he could do. He doesn't have the physical strength to really get that power through quite yet, but the fact that he's building that automatism to shoot is insanely encouraging for his upcoming season. And maybe my surprise is what's his name? Henry Francis Jeffers. Is the young boy?
It's if I remember, it's Henry. I think it's Henry Jeffers, or is it Francis Jeffers? I'm not sure. Is he? Do you know?
It's Henry. He's got Henry in his name. I'm sure. No,
he's got Henry.
Francis.
We know. The name
Francis.
is escaping me.
It's Francis. I'm sure there was a joke about France there. No, it's Francis Jeffers or something like that.
And he was my surprise youngster. Because you know what, Balogun did what I thought.
Let's be real.
Yeah. Well, Balogun did what Balogun was going to do, personally, nothing like crazy. And I didn't learn anything new that I didn't already know. There we go. Jack Henry. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mixed them up. So, but he was one that was my surprise, because I've always known about him in the academy. Like anybody who watches the academy football knows, like he's really good on the ball, but I didn't know how he would translate to kind of an adult game, and he was unfazed. So for me, that was really encouraging. So he was my surprise, but
Sorry, yeah, but there's a couple of things I think we haven't cut. I really want to emphasize here. First of all, if you look at the lineups, especially that Hibs game, how many of those players are starting for us? How many players are in the shop window? Look at the likes of Maitland-Niles. When does he ever play Maitland-Niles in central midfield? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why you have players playing in the positions that we want them to be playing at.
Should we touch on Nuno Tavares? I don't know about 100%. You guys, because I think he deserves like his own special little section. Because look, I'm admitted that for me, Nuno Tavares was one I was worried about. Okay, like I thought he was good. I understood the plan in terms of getting him, but I was very encouraged by what I saw, lads. Like for me, he had the same faults that I saw in some of the, the YouTube clips and stuff. And when I was looking into it, I don't think he has a 5-yard burst that's explosive. But if you give him like 10 or 15 yards, he's fast and he's physical. But the one thing I didn't realize was how technical he was with his feet. He has very quick feet. And what that really tells me, at least, is, if he's on the wing with very short space, while he doesn't have the athletic separation as players, he's got quick feet that players are now standing off him. And by the way, Tavernier, who's their best player, sat off him.
I think.
Do you know what that tells me? When your opposition sits off you, you're afraid. It goes, you have the technical ability that, you can burn me. And so he gave him respect. And that really was really great for me. I saw him attacking space, demanding the ball. And lads, he came in, 4 days ago?
Yeah.
For a youngster to do that, it was just, I was very, very impressed. I don't think he's going to be world class and none of that, but it's just, for me, Nuno Tavares was somebody who I had a lower bar coming into this, and I saw him exceed it in a performance. So I'm really happy with that purchase. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, no, for me, with the Tavares thing, it's I'm happy with how high he was. He was very high constantly through that game. He was active in the press in terms of he wanted to defend high. He was aggressive on the ball. He seemed like he fancied a pass. He fancied a bit of a. As someone said earlier, I can't remember who said it, but he was pinging a couple of balls that were impressive. In terms of here it is. He not sure. I mean, I'm not going to put him in the same class as Shaw's had a great season, but he's made some really good passes in that.
He's
in that
very
game.
passing. I think what Mustafa's saying was what I was saying. I was so surprised at the level of range he had in his pass. He's got that Cruyff turn on lock, like in no space. He can Cruyff turn and then pass in the middle, or he can go outside. I wasn't expecting that level of technique. He's Shaw-like in technique. And by the way, it's something I think Kieran can actually work on. Like when he's at a standstill, he's very explosive, but Kieran's passing repertoire isn't as, large, I would say. Tavares showed me immediately, like his range of pass and the angles that he can receive at are immense. It's not something I thought he had in his locker. And so for me, that can combat a lack of explosivity, though. That's why I really highlight it. So while he doesn't have it, I think those passing angles he does have. So you don't necessarily need that if you're really great on a passing angle.
Yeah. So before I move on to the guests, I just want to get a quick couple of points out on this Rangers game, and as well as the Hibs game. So I want us to realize that preseason performance is more important than preseason results. I'm gonna start blocking people that come at me to say it's Rangers, it's Hibs. I don't care if it's Rangers, I don't care if it's Hibs. It's the performance. It's about getting players in the window, and it's about making sure that we can actually progress as a team this next season. George can correct me if I'm wrong, but I doubt they've done much ball work up to now. So like they'll probably be doing sprints and stuff. Like they would be doing fitness work in the first week or so. So if you're not gonna, if you understand how, as George was saying, if you have played football at any level or had any level of coaching, you would understand that the technical mistakes that are there at the moment are things that you would expect from rusty players. They are playing to get fitness. And the other thing I'm going to mention is, we can all have a laugh, we can all have a joke, but if you're going to post Willian pictures of with his belly out, realize that that's the most silly and stupid thing I've seen in a while. Yes, he's not had a great season, but you need to realize that any man can be can have a picture at a wrong angle that you could put bloody Ronaldo and he'd probably have a.
I do want to.
He was wearing a body vest. Yeah, he was wearing a vest.
They have GPS
have
and then they use it.
Yeah,
they use it to do preseason and to record sprints, and this is why, like, you could tell that was the case because when you look at his preseason photos, he's not like that. But look, this is just what we do as fans, don't we? Like we do jump to conclusions, but yeah.
I want to get some thoughts on the other two guys in the chat on these last couple of games. So guys, go for it, mate.
Do you want let Gabby go first, man? Because hello everyone, by the way. It's good to see everybody. Good to see you, George.
Good to see you too,
mate. Gabby, you go for it, buddy.
All right. My thoughts on the Hibs game. I thought it was just more about getting back into shape, gaining back some of our rustiness. I noticed a few of the subs we came on did look a bit sharp, like in the Hibs game was Laka, Pepe and Smith Rowe all looked sharp in the Hibs game. I thought Maitland-Niles looked sharp for a bit, but felt like he was a bit rusty at times, as he did today. A lot of the times, I think a lot of the mistakes have come more down to rust than they have come down to players' abilities. I think with Oba, as much as I've joked about him on Twitter, calling him finished or whatever, I do think he needs to regain his sharpness, which should come later on in pre-season or maybe at the start of the season. And the Rangers game, I thought we built up very nice. The way we attacked was very good. We found easy ways to open them up, and I think we was attacking down the flanks as we found that their biggest weakness.
Which is strange because their best player is Tavernier. People kept saying so. You'd assume that we want to go play centrally, but their best player is someone we actually attacked with Nuno, which is I found quite interesting.
I'm sorry, Curran, but like really quickly, we made that happen. Like, look,
yep,
I said it earlier in the stream that Rangers went invincible, and I don't know if that comment went under the bus, but they aren't some scrub. And when they went, and if you go invincible in any season. They're a serious team, and we made Rangers look poor. We did, and so that was due to our counter-press. We did. We dominated them, and so for me, yeah, I agree with what Gabby said about Oba because for me, I've defended Oba quite a bit. I saw things where Oba got involved in play today, like that spin to release Pepe in the first half was crazy. That I don't associate that with Oba. So for me, it's just sharpness. It's about getting in those positions, and he hasn't found himself in the box in those positions in quite a while. So I think it's just a matter of, getting up to speed.
The fact that he's there in that position is what encourages me more than the actual finish itself. Obviously, the finish, everyone can have a joke about it, whatever. But the main thing is that he was in that position. He was there, and the positioning is something that we can look at in terms of what we can do going forward. And as George said, he was dropping back. He was involving himself in build-up, which is something I do not associate with Aubameyang as well. The other thing I was going to mention is I'm a bit worried about the set-piece defending. Both goals and in the Hibs goal, we have had goals that were that were due to set pieces. 3 goals in 2 games at set pieces, and it is worrying. What do people think about that? I'll let that go for anyone.
I think Curran was interesting was that some people went on to have a go on Twitter straight away with the new coach. I think he's only come in, hasn't really even got his foot under the desk yet. And to be honest, our setup didn't look right in that corner because if you guys saw, we had a very stable setup in terms of it didn't matter which players came in. There was a sort of triangle with 3 blockers forming in front of that, and we didn't have that setup. It looked very flat and almost like the blockers were almost on top of the defenders who were meant to be attacking the ball. So we've got a mixture of zonal and man marking, and I didn't think that was separated out. So I think that's what's led to it. And plus, I think we've got 2 young goalkeepers, so I think sometimes I don't think they're at blame for either of the corner goals, but I think that sometimes affects the confidence of players. It's always boosts the confidence of defenders if you know you've got a goalkeeper who can come out and catch and claim the ball. So I think it's going to take a bit of time for the coach to come in and work on that. And I think that's what the America trip is going to be all about. That's where they're going to work on set pieces and drills like that. They haven't had time to do that. They'll be just doing fitness work at the moment. Just like George was saying, it'll literally be fitness, getting your base fitness level up to a standard. And we could see a big jump in fitness. If you saw the Hibs game and then you saw the Rangers game, there was a massive jump in fitness.
100%.
The way we could counter press. I think the reason why I think Rangers couldn't do anything is they got the ball and basically could only play it around in their third, and they knew that we'd set traps all around and block their passing lanes. And I think I didn't just listen to the Arteta interview. I listened to Steven Gerrard's interview because I wanted to know what he thought of the actual thing. And he was saying that, you know, he described this is what happens when you play against elite players. You know, and he was alluding that he wasn't happy with the fact that when the very rare occasion they broke our press, they weren't brave enough to do something with the ball. But I think he knew deep down that was very difficult to do. Going back on a point on what George was saying, I just want to say that with Tavares, I was expecting what we saw today to an extent, because if you don't have pace, what really kills a fullback or any defending player is if you're two-footed, or if you're more two-footed than one-footed, means that you can go either way, right? So he's got a bit of a right foot. He's got more of a right foot than Tierney. So if you're a defender and you're jockeying, you're not sure whether if you press, they can cut inside you, and then that's a weak area for you to be able to stretch around with your weaker leg to try to sort of make that tackle. When you're used to players going down the line. So it's very, very difficult to read which way a player like him would go. And that's why I think the fullback realised he had to back off a little bit. It's not the pace that he was more worried about. He wasn't too sure how to read which way he was going to go. And I think that's a really good facet to have in your backup left back. When you've got Tierney, who's more of a line player, he goes down the line and it's using his burst to get there to put right across. So that alternative and the sort of differences that we have between the two players will be excellent, I think, in terms of the coach trying to pick his profile players.
It helps.
I'm just gonna pull up a question. Yeah, go on, Z.
I was saying, I think it helps with Tavares because, you know, even in his last season with Benfica, he didn't just play left back. He played in central midfield. He played right back. He played on the wing as well. So he has, you know, that tactical flexibility to play in all kind of positions and not just on the left. So he's a lot more confident on the ball, and you can see even in the attacking phase. So I think it'll be a good tool to have for us, especially even in the dying stages of the game. You know, when teams are tired, he could come on and actually be a proper attacking outlet. So I don't know. I'm kind of swaying, you know, in the positive direction for Tavares now.
He really surprised me, lads. Like the only thing, like I get what Nom's saying. So typically, like youngsters, and I totally agree. Like he's spot on. So when you don't have an athletic ability, you know, typically youngsters become more technical to solve more problems, right? And then vice versa. You know, you end up having physical players who maybe don't use their technique, and so because they just use their physical prowess, and so that's something that they may have to work on. But you know, players that don't have that burst, particularly fullbacks, you know, they do need to work on their technique. I was just so surprised at the angles that he showed, because for me that was a level I wasn't expecting. So while I'm sure he probably would work on technique, the angles that he showed me, he can go in and out both ways. I didn't think he had that. I really didn't think that he would be able to Cruyff turn on the end and then go inside. And it surprised me because I think that's a level of technique I didn't associate with him. So now I actually raise my expectations. I didn't think it would be that high for me. And, you know, for a kid who's 21, came into a new team to demand the ball and score, that tells me a lot about its mentality. And I don't want to project too far, but to have somebody come into a new team, demand the ball, and then take the ball and attack to your opposition in a team like Arsenal, it told me he didn't care. So when you project you put him in the Premier League,
he's someone that doesn't give a crap. He just wants to do. He wants to make movements. He wants to be on the ball and relay it as quickly as possible, as well as being able to play in on both feet as well. So
that's a scouting thing, though, Kern, that you look at when you look at mentality and you look at transition to the Premier League. And I think, you know, when you look at players that are coming into a team that maybe you don't know much about, because look, let's be honest, like I said, I didn't know about him, and I was just
I don't think any of us did,
right? And I don't think many people did. Look at how well maybe somebody's gonna do into preseason with a new team. That those little mentality things tell you quite a bit about their likelihood of adaptation, and so I was really, really impressed with it.
Before there is a question I want to bring up, but before I do, I want to give a quick word on Nicolas Pepe, because he like today I think was someone I saw today someone that was active in the press. He looked to go he looked to really go for the press today, and he something that I don't really see from him in usual. The rhythm of the game, as George mentions, the La Pausa part of the game, he's really starting to understand what ball retention means. He means business. He's someone that I really, really feel it can explode this season if he can get himself in the team. And it's going to be hard because Bukayo is Bukayo. If he can get in his team, then I really hope that I really think he can have a great season this year. In terms, I'm gonna relay that. There's a question I think we had before I wanted to get up as well. So So I want to go to Z on this first. What about new players, and how are we feeling about how much time they're going to get with the squad?
To be fair, I mean, even Arteta said in the new press conference, he said that that he's expecting a few players to join with him in Florida. So that's me assuming Lokonga and possibly Ben White might just squeeze himself into the tour. We never know. But for sure, we're looking at three to four more players, and I personally don't think we'll have them all by the start of the season. But look, that's the nature of the window. We're struggling to sell these players, and unfortunately, we need to get those numbers out, and there's a mismatch in valuation of those players. So we have to play the long game, but at the end of the day, the plan is to get all of those done first. So it's just
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you a question regarding that. Do you think we'll get, let's say we're in for two creative players, just for argument's sake, would you think we might be able to get in one of the easier deals out of those two before we have to focus on the harder one?
I think it's not the fact that there is the easy deal. I don't think that money is in question. I don't think we're going to struggle with money this window. I think it's more of the fact that we have players in the squad that need to leave. Yet today we saw an entire bench full of players that are not going to play games next season. That should tell you everything. We can't afford to have these players because we're giving away free money. And in any business, if you have people within the team that are not going to be any use to you, then why are they there? Why are we keeping them? So the fact is, we need to at least get rid of five of those players to bring three in. So regardless if it's an easy deal, and by that you mean Houssam Aouar or Maddison or even a right back and Locatelli, doesn't matter to me. We need to get numbers out the door first. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a bloated squad and back to the same place.
Can I pose a strategy to you? Because I've seen this kind of thing happen before. We've done this even under Arsene Wenger, where there's players where there's interest, but we've kept them and played them before we've gone on to a tour abroad. And it's almost saying to the clubs, right, well, look, we're going to take these players abroad. And if we take the players abroad, then it's going to be hard for you guys to pull a transfer off. And sometimes that kind of charade sort of gets played between interested clubs and our clubs. Do you think, I've got this funny feeling, this is just my hunch, based on what I've seen in previous transfer windows, that at least two or three of those players will probably leave before we fly out to America, because it looks like there is interest in players. It's just that we're haggling over the fees. And other clubs are in the same position as us, right? They want to get their pre-season going with the squad settled as quickly as possible. And if there's only a small difference in some of those valuations, and I think that's the week where things hopefully will get struck in terms of outgoings.
Well, Nom, I just want to build. I want to build off that because it kind of ties into my answer personally for Yo-Yo's question, where he goes like, "Are there any concerns to which stage new players join a side?" And no, there's specific concerns at levels of preseason where the Scottish camp I always used, just not even fitness, but it was building automatisms to a counter press and a build up, something that we're just getting players used to. The American trip, that is when you start looking at build up specific patterns for the season. And that is the trip. And that's the stage at preseason. So about a week and a half afterwards that you really start looking at your pattern play. And that is when it becomes important to start bringing in new players. Now, for me, I actually draw a delineation about what type of player you really want to bring in at that point. So I give more leeway to attackers. What I mean by that, front line, either wingers, even attacking midfielders and strikers. I give more leeway that they can join seasons much later in preseason because a lot of their play is based on instinct, and it's not necessarily about pattern play necessarily. What I really look for in the beginning of preseason or the middle of that point, which is going to be the American trip, is making sure that your midfield and defense is in. And so for me, it becomes absolutely crucial that the Granit Xhaka replacement comes as soon as possible, within a week or within very closely of him leaving, and he has a chance to be in preseason, because then I would be concerned. If we're late into preseason and I don't see him have a chance to work on those attacking build-up automatisms, that's when I worry. An attacker like James Maddison or even, an Awar, these players look at instinct quite a bit, and they, when you do introduce them to a system, I'm not as concerned about the automatisms because we will have built those to get them up the pitch. And so, you've kind of secured the first 2/3. So I'm not, concerned about attacking players coming in late to a window. I'm generally not, but I am in midfield and defense and even goalkeeper, if that's going to be a thing. That's when I am concerned. So I want those positions secured by America.
Before we do move on to transfers, I'm just going to make a quick point about the whole why are we not selling players? Why? Let's cry. Look at the offers that we're getting for some of these players. Look at the offers, that literally derisory offers, because Italy are broke. Both the top two teams in Spain are in financial crisis. France are broke. Germany don't really feel like, I don't think a lot of our players would go to Germany, and we're dealing with players that want to go to, for example, Italy in Granit Xhaka. We're dealing with loans for example, a Joe Willock or a Reece Nelson potentially as well, and we're dealing with other Premier League clubs. And when you're dealing with other Premier League clubs, you've got to realize that it's a case of everyone's each other's enemy. You have to realize that these are our competition, and we don't want to sell to them for any less than we can get. And the other thing is, when we're buying players from Premier League clubs, they will want everything they can get from that player, especially when they're selling to a Premier League club. But for now, let's move on. Transfer time, people. Transfer time. So let me bring people in. I think we'll go to Gabby first on this one. Gabby, what's your thoughts on the transfer window so far, and what do you think we're doing next?
I think it's Lokonga, White, which are both pretty much well done. Then we've also got Tavares. I feel like we need to go for the playmaker role next, for someone who's to break the lines, because we don't really want to make that Dragon or something. But then I could see us going for right back or goalkeeper next instead.
Right, so Willow, I actually haven't spoken to you so far. I'm gonna go to you next, brother. What are you thinking, man?
What, on transfers, on who to bring in next?
Transfers, brother. Man sounds like he's 60.
This is well, it's coming in. I was just thinking about George's point on what he was talking about with the USA thing, and it's imperative to get in our defenders and midfielders. And I was just thinking though, like, Ben White's not going to be here for that trip, is he? Because if he's on holiday till the 26th, he's not going to be. He's going to miss that trip.
I think he's going to be in personally. I think he'll
cut his holiday short. Is that what you think?
Yeah, Willow, because I think the Inter Miami game is on the 25th. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 25th, and then the other one's on the 28th.
Yeah, so I think if he's due back on the 26th, as a player like him, what would a few days difference be? Do you know what I'm saying to you? I mean, if you were joining with a new squad, if I was Ben, I'd be trying to make an impression, right? So if you look at Tierney, I think look, I'm not saying people should cut a week back, but I can imagine Kieran getting bored at home. So thinking, right, I can't be doing this. I need to go and play football. I need to be with my teammate. I think Ben's very similar. I think if you understand the kind of player that he is, if you forget about his, looks and the fact that he looks like something out of Love Island, the kid is actually a proper pro. Yeah, so
don't think he'll be on RB for catching a wine.
Yeah, but I think he's, you'll see. I think my hunch is that he'll cut his holiday short by a few days to join that America trip, because I think it's going to be big for him to bond with the teammates.
It would be very important if he does. What George said was what he said was hitting nail on the head, really, on what he needs to do on getting the defenders and the midfielders in for it. I think that is very important, and I want that. The deal I want wrapped up most, really, is the DM, the Granit Xhaka replacement. I think that is so important to get in and get him going and get him moving. Who that is, if that's a Locatelli or not. I didn't see the interview today because I was busy after the game. I saw someone tweet that apparently Arteta talked about a 4-3-3. I don't know if that's bullshit or if that's real.
No,
we move, okay? It's coming, people. Is coming, all right. We take an L today for dubs the next day. Okay, we thought it was the 4-3-3 confirmation that I've been dying for, but
no, Willow, he never said that. It was just he'll looking for the final.
You know what? I watched that. And I thought, where is he watching this? Where is he watched this? You know that I watched it. I listened. I went through it 3 times. And I still couldn't find it. I thought maybe there must be a clip that's missing there or something. Right?
I watched it and I think I heard the 4-3-3 and I was like, okay, I'm going to tweet it.
Final 3.
And then obviously I'm so excited. I'm tweeting it, and then now I've listened to it like 3 times myself on the video on the YouTube video. And I was like, oh my god, I look like a douche.
Thank God for that, because I was reading this on Twitter. I was like, oh no.
But my god, if that happened, I would have been the most excited man on the.
But I want to build off Willow's point because he's completely correct. That Granit Xhaka, look, everyone knows. We can have a debate if you guys want about what type of partner, and we can maybe go into that. But personally, just broadly, I agree with Willow. That sitter, okay, regardless of who we come in, has to come in the American trip, because that partnership with Partey, whoever Partey's new partner is, has to be established. And I really believe that those build-up patterns only happen with automatisms on the pitch. And so I will critique the club if I don't see a center mid partner acquired and in that last week of America. Look, I'll get maybe the first one, but even then, mate, like, I'm very frustrated if we don't have that partner in. I'm not worried that we won't get him, but I'm worried for what I said on, building automatisms. I really think that you need to have that center mid partner by the time America rolls around.
Agree, but the other thing is, though, it does look like the club, if we are taking Locatelli 40 million plus 5, it looks like they are trying to get the midfielder in as quickly as possible. If they're putting that serious of a bid in, I think they're thinking the way we're thinking on, we need that person in for the American trip.
Well, mate, we always said, right, like, it's within a week of each other, right? Like, I'm sure, and it's less than a week that they'll turn. I'm just saying, like, for me, that's the critical. I don't need Onana. I don't need your goalkeeper. I don't even need a right back, because I think Callum is fine right now.
Yeah,
I don't need that in by America. I need that first midfield partner.
That's literally me as well. It's getting Ben White in for the USA tour and the DM. I'm agreed with that.
George. And Willow, I think I'm going to agree with both you guys on that. I think if it's, let's just say for argument's sake, it's Locatelli, right? It's even more imperative that a player like Locatelli comes in, because he's moving to a different league. B, he's got to settle in with the squad, because he's going from solo to the Arsenal squad. And C, he needs to understand what Arteta wants and the dynamic he wants to work with Thomas, and what formations he wants to sort of do, both on the ball and off the ball.
Yeah, it's also important for the squad, though, to get used to Locatelli, because a lot changes if Locatelli comes into the team. Like, the formation changes. I think Partey as well needs to get used to a midfielder like that.
Should we have the debate, lads, about what each offers, and then because for me, I think everyone gets a little bit confused about my feelings on it, because look, I have a very set way of how I would want to play. But I think it gets lost in translation about what kind of player Locatelli is. He is a deep lying playmaker, but lads, he's very much a passing 6'8", and he plays a lot more ahead of the ball than what people are saying. If you watch him for Sassuolo, he arrives quite often into the box, but also he is much more a player that is a little bit ahead of the ball, and what that would indirectly mean on Thomas Partey to accommodate a player like that who is a little bit more mobile. He's mobile than Xhaka, so the system tweak is a little bit, it's less about having him cover that left back spot, but you're going to see him step a little bit higher because he can do that, and it will indirectly make Partey more of a lone 6. It will push him a lot more deeper in role, And
Yeah.
the difference between that, and that also, by the way, happens with Ruben Neves. You don't want Ruben Neves deep. It's going to push him a little bit high, and it's going to have a little bit more of a flatter midfield. That's the tactical implication for a deep-lying playmaker profile. That's what that is. Now, if you switch it to another profile, it has the opposite dynamic. It allows Partey to be a little bit more ahead, while that more destroyer type is capable of patrolling and giving the progression to Partey, which, by the way, we saw about this in the last 2 games. This was a clear example of Partey being the progressor. He received the progression reins. And for me, he looked immense. We can have our debates on what type, but that's the key debate for me. So when I debate with people about the players are good. Locatelli is the best deep-lying playmaker on the market. Make no mistake about it. He is, facts. But I'm more worried about what it means to Partey. So I will always not like a deep-lying playmaker if that's the profile we get, because I'm just warning people that's the tactical switch that will happen to Partey. And if you're afraid about Partey being a lone 6, which I am, and it's not quite a lone 6, but being deeper, I'm not a fan of him being deeper. That's the switch that these profiles have. So maybe we can have that debate. I don't know. I think.
You know me and you disagree on this. I mean, I have a vision of not a Partey a pure 6. He's not a pure 6. I don't think either Partey or Locatelli are pure 6. Before we get onto that, I'm gonna address this because
we've got a little more robot. I don't know. Maybe we can get the other lads into while Curran is fixing.
Oh God, he's back. I'm back. Look, if you really think we're putting multiple bids in for a player that doesn't want to come, then I just don't know what to say to you. I'm confused.
I don't think we are though, Curran. I think we put in one bid and we communicated to them what we're willing to spend. That's very different from multiple bids for me. And I really don't see how public this negotiation is. That doesn't fit with Arsenal's philosophy. I've never seen us debate with CEOs and the public about our target. Everything this screams to me is Sassuolo working us in order to get the deal for Juventus that they're ultimately going to compromise to, because Juventus do this. And so, but the debate should be about what type of sitter you want. Like, let's remove feasibility, because I really don't like those arguments, but let's debate what type of sitter you want in the system and how that will change our patterns of play. Because remember, guys, we've talked about how similar a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1 are.
Yeah.
But what Locatelli does, I want to have that debate. What does it change with tactically about what it allows us to do?
So if you get Locatelli, for me anyway, you have Partey and him both sitting a bit deeper. You don't have that progression where you have Partey as a almost Thiago-like, as you like to say, age. You have them both sitting down a bit. You have Locatelli on the left of that pivot, or you can either have draw in a Partey 6 and put Locatelli a bit higher, and then play ESR more centrally. It's a case of, again, we both know this. It's game state. So if we're going for the game, you'll push a Locatelli or a Partey, whichever one you feel is more comfortable in terms of your opposition to attack. You push one up, you let one drop, and you go 4-3-3. If you're trying to defend a game or you're trying to just be in a normal game state, fine. Have them both sit back, have ESR central, and play that.
That's my question. This is my, when I ask people.
I think
you're right. You're right, Curran. So this is why I ask, because when people tell me, typically people argue with me about ball progression. That seems to be the distinct point between, say, a Bissouma and a Locatelli, which is just complete false facts. Bissouma, if you look at his Lille numbers, is in the 89th percentile for progressive passes. People look at radars and they assume that a player can't do something, when in fact a radar shows just what they've been asked to do. Yeah. And so if your question with me, George, is progression, he can't do it, well, that's false. If you're telling me that you want Locatelli to step up in game state and do that, that's where the signing becomes very weird, particularly with a James Maddison. Because Locatelli doesn't have the 5-yard burst. If you look at Locatelli, by the way, he leaves his feet in the tackle. He goes to ground. This is another thing that I don't think people have watched with him in Sassuolo. And the key difference between a Bissouma, because the debates that we do get with this is you're going to get very similar level of ability in progressive passing, okay? But you're not the athletic.
The same athleticism, yeah. Look, for me, it's I don't even want Locatelli. Like I would prefer Bissouma. So if we're talking about what we're doing in the system, my system and yours differs, but how Locatelli would fit into my system would be a case of obviously a game state situation. I want a fluid game state rotation. That's what I want. I want a fluid ability to go from.
But that'll happen with either, right, Curran?
Yeah, it will happen with either. I mean, we don't really differ that much. The main reason we differ is I prefer the 4-3 dominance and you prefer the 4-2-3-1 dominance. That's
well. What do you think? Because I think you were going to get in. What is your opinion on the debate between, say, a deep lying playmaker like a Locatelli type versus maybe a Bissouma type, since those types are very different and what you get with them are different?
I think my state is I've always wanted Bissouma. I've always thought he's more of an athlete. He's got that more 5 yard burst. He's also, as you said, at Lille, he was a much better ball progressor on numbers compared to Brighton, and that's what people haven't seen. I really like Bissouma. I think he is the right partner. The other things about Locatelli, as I said, like, I see him and he goes to ground so much, and people like that scare the shit out of me because I've seen it too often with some of our worst players we've had over the last 10 years. One of the big reasons they've been our worst players, they're rash challenges where they change the game because they get themselves sent off by doing a stupid challenge, and they leave their foot in. And Locatelli does that all the time. The amount of times I've seen him play, and he goes to ground all the time. And fair enough, a lot of the time he wins the ball, but sometimes he does it as well by he miscontrols the ball and then lunges into the challenge. Sometimes he's lucky enough to win it, sometimes he's not. And in the highlights, what you don't see is you only see the times when he wins them. You don't see the times when he crunches the player and gets himself a booking. And I am scared of that because the Premier League, I think, is a lot more harsh of a league compared to other leagues where I feel like, fuck me, if he's in the Premier and he's doing them challenges and you've got someone else going down like in our league, he's going to get himself sent off. He's a good player, but
he is the best deep lying playmaker and I want to make that point. If you want that profile, it makes sense. He's the best on the market. But if you look at analyzing the player, and also, lads, the only thing I want to add for people, what does that mean with a James Maddison? I think we're all in agreement that James Maddison seems to be the marquee signing. Okay? Yeah. So when you combine the qualities of a James Maddison and a Partey, what does that do with Locatelli or any deep-lying playmaker? I will assure you what it does is it puts the deep-lying playmaker ahead. It makes Thomas Partey a little bit deeper because Maddison prefers that left center mid-half space. That's what he's done as an 8. And so what you're doing is you're telling Maddison that he's going to be in the 10, okay? And your deep-lying playmaker is going to patrol the left because Partey is going to go deep in order to accommodate a James Maddison to come in. And you're going to end up having that new deep-lying playmaker on the left, and then you're going to have James Maddison coming down on the right. That's the implication that this would do, and it's not cohesive to what he's done at Leicester. This is the point I try to make to people, where when he did drop deep as an 8, which he can do, he did it on the left. This is the very key difference that I don't know people are looking at when they're looking at zones and how you get pairs on the pitch to work. We saw when two people compete for the same zones on the same side of the pitch, what that does. What do I mean by that? Very simply, we saw what Odegaard and Saka did together. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But everybody could see they competed for the same spaces, and it was difficult. So for me, I really, really struggle when you're getting a deep-lying playmaker who's going to step up more than Xhaka, because Neves, Locatelli, all of these guys are more athletic. They're not going to be like Xhaka that's going to slot in that left back space. They're going to step up. And in order to accommodate that, Partey has to sit. I don't like what that does to Partey's game.
I know you don't, but I honestly think it's not as big a situation as you think it is. I mean, if you look at the Atletico days with Saul, he sat. It's not an argument, George. It's a fact. He sat, mate. He was someone that could sit.
But he hasn't had his best games there. That's also a fact.
The other thing I want to say, though, with the Partey thing is if he is going to be that sitter on the right-hand side, that then means we would be getting an overlapping right back.
Which we don't have.
Because at the moment, even watching today, watching Cedric play a lot of the time, he was playing inverted, and that's what I think. I keep seeing this, and I'm like, when's it going to? Are we waiting for the right back to come? And again today, it was an inverted right back, and I'm like, okay, so if we are getting a Locatelli, then you don't just have to go and get a Locatelli. You then also need to get an overlapping right back, because if Partey's going to sit, he's going to be in that right back, in that kind of space where Cedric and Chambers have been occupying.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. I mean, I think before we move on to, I want to move on to Ben White. I think I'm going to let Gavi talk. I haven't heard from Gavi in a while, and same with Nom. But you guys, let me know what you think about this Locatelli situation, what's going on right now.
Yeah, about the Partey situation, I thought he was a lot more higher up today than he normally is in the games I've watched him. He was pushing a lot more forward in attack. He was, even in the Hibs game, you see him taking more shots. His shots are getting a lot more better because he's, of course, more match fit, I think, as George mentioned earlier. And it felt like he was pushing more up because El Neni was the one sitting deep. Meanwhile, he was allowed more freedom. I know El Neni isn't really the best version of what we could have, but he did his job well today, in my opinion, and did what he needed to do. And I feel like the inverted right-back role is something which we need to cover midfield, which then that's the kind of profiles we've been looking at, like Tyler Adams. He's a inverted fullback. He seems to be the main link which I've seen. And the type of right-back he is an inverted one. I've not really seen many overlapping fullback links just so far, which are really a bit like, which kind of explains what Mikel wants in his team.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nom, any additional thoughts?
Look, for me, I think look, we since we've talked about Bissouma, it's been made clear, and I guess it's one factual thing we could all agree on, that I have no issues with getting Bissouma. I think if we get Bissouma, we get an upgrade on El Neni, right? And I think I was talking to Willow about this on Spaces yesterday. I think Locatelli's an upgrade on Xhaka. And so you've got two players here, like for like, who are upgrades on the midfield players that we had last year, right? Now, I think the problem we have is that, and I think Z sort of alluded to it, and to be honest, I scratched my head and I couldn't even think of any. It's very rare that you get two transfers being made from the same club, right? Even though we've got good relationships with Brighton. Now, for me, I think the way Locatelli could work is we could still get another midfield player, a younger version, or like a Kamara, someone who's going to be quite cheap, much cheaper than Bissouma, but can come in and do that kind of role, an upgrade on El Neni. I was postulating that last night. So for me, we would have then potentially four midfielders, right, to pick from. So you've got Locatelli, Partey, Lokonga, and just for argument's sake, just entertain me for a bit. You've got someone like Kamara from Marseille. So you've got four players who could play in different combinations depending on what the opposition is and how you sort of then set up in midfield. And that will solve some of the issues that we've discussed. And I think, look, both Curran and George have made some really valid points. And the right back issue, I think we're not going to know, right? Ideally, and this is going to sound crazy, I'd love to have Ridal Baku, because I think one of the things that really excited me when I first saw him was his ability to both play inside and outside. And I think what we do need, I think we saw this with Tavares today, is that it brings another dimension to the game if you've got a fullback which can do both. Does that make sense? We can play both inside.
You're right, because Tavares did invert at times during this game today.
Yeah.
And he's got the potential to invert more than Tierney.
Yeah.
And
so
the thing
for
is,
me, I think it's all about creating solutions. I think you can achieve a balance, but I think it's very difficult for us because we don't know what the complete puzzle looks like at the moment. I think the only thing that inhibits us going for Bissouma is possibly the asking price that Brighton would ask for. Brighton definitely want to sell, and I think if we can't get, say, for instance, Locatelli, then we'd obviously have to move on to our plan B, whoever that is. I hope it's not Ruben Neves, personally, myself. And then
no.
Then I think Bissouma becomes, as the window goes on, Bissouma becomes more of a desperate case for Brighton. And I'll tell you why it is, because not only have they got midfield profiles that they brought in, they bought, I think, an Ecuadorian player in last year.
And Casado.
Yeah, so they've got these two guys that they've, and if you remember very clearly, Graham Potter said in an interview last year, he said that, look, certain players, and he was definitely talking about Bissouma, will, move on eventually because they get into that stage in their contract. They've got 2 years left on his contract. they definitely don't want him to go into the final year of his contract without signing an extension. And that's the price. So
yeah, for sure.
You know what it
George,
is.
George, quickly go, and then I want to
I've
move
got
on
Sam Lee's
to
point.
Madison. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, just let
the reason I'm saying these things is because I think it's important for people to understand that the transfer market is fluid, right? And sometimes when we just look at one piece of the jigsaw, it's very difficult for us to understand the whole picture because we don't know what the other moves are that we're trying to make in the market.
The only point that I really want to make is why I love Bissouma is it doesn't limit a 4-3-3. The reason I'm choosing him over a Locatelli, because a Locatelli does do that. A Locatelli, I'm telling everyone right now, that is the one that's pursued. And that type, that is a 4-3-3, very specific. And while, Noam, you're completely correct that you get an upgrade on Xhaka in one case, and you get an upgrade in Elneny in another case, I also could maybe recommend TN Coop Miners, who could be that second.
I was literally going to ask you, George. Literally about to ask you that.
So when you are looking at it, it becomes who is the big price partner for Thomas Partey, and when the question becomes who did Thomas Partey play the best with? Was it with a Granit Xhaka or was it with an Elneny? Forget quality, and I always make this point. Where did Thomas have his best games? It's factually true that he had them with Elneny, and so for me, I would rather that big money spend be an improvement on an Elneny. And then if you have a second CM, I'm not saying to never get one. Buy a TN Coop Miners, who, by the way, is in the realm of £15 million, so that you do have that profile. It's just when you spend big on a Locatelli, you're spending big on specificity. I don't like that. At least with Bissouma, I know that he can be an anchor in a 3, and so that becomes the issue. And so when you allow Partey to venture forward, to be free, you get the best version of Thomas Partey that we saw today, that we saw with Hibs. That's my point on the Partey issue. So getting Bissouma doesn't limit you on formation. No. I believe a Locatelli does. That's why I'm against it.
Yeah, I mean, we both agree on this. I think that Bissouma is the move, and it should be the move. The question is we're going to move on to right now. Ben White is also going to be coming from Brighton, and it's going to be done very soon. So obviously, there's an issue with 2 transfers from the same club. We're going to be able to manifest that at 2 different times. We're going to do a double deal. What's going to go on? But I want to get onto the Ben White stuff. I want to first go to Z because I know he knows the details of the deal. So Z, go for it, mate.
Yeah, I mean it's a £35 million upfront deal with the rest of the remaining fee, which is around £12.5 million, to be paid of the course of his remaining years of the deal. So that's 5 years. So 12.5, in those years. So I think essentially it's a very, very good deal because we are paying £35 million up front for an English player that plays very much like a non-English player, and he's got a very good potential, and he's going to suit Arsenal to a T, especially with what Arteta wants. I think my only drawback with the Ben White deal would possibly be maybe we have spent a lot of the transfer fee on him already. That's my only drawback, but other than that, I'm not really so fussed about it, to be fair.
Right. Okay, so let's go into it. So before I let people go, I'm going to get my stuff out, and then I'm going to let everyone go. So Ben White, the thing with Ben White is he is the David Luiz replacement. He's not anyone else's replacement. Let's get this clear. He is the David Luiz replacement. He is the right centre back that excels in ball progression. He is someone that can. He's good he's very good in terms of a one-on-one duel. He actually progresses the ball very well. He's someone that can not only progress the ball. He is someone that can actually be a threat in the final third. He's good in the air. He's not great in the air. He's good in the air. And he's someone that I really feel can adapt not only at centre back, but also can move into right back if we do need him there. I said earlier that I think he might be the right back. I'm still not sure because we don't see a right back coming at the club. If it does happen, it happens. I mean, obviously the squad is fluid and that's how things are progressing. If you look at the Ben White situation, how it's progressed, we've sent someone out and we've brought someone in. So Saliba's gone out and Luiz has gone out. So we've got 2 out and we're going 1 in. Then we have the Lokonga situation. Guendouzi's gone out and Lokonga's going to come in. one in, one out. And yeah, so I feel like it's a very good it's a very, very good signing. It's good price. We never really go that much fee up front, which shows that we're looking to go for players that we can sign and actually make sure that we get the player. We don't just go, okay, we're going to try and fiddle around with the deal like we did with the Buendia deal. We didn't feel like it was as important, so we weren't willing to pay what Villa paid up front and in terms of add-ons as well.
It's a risk. It's a risk. But at the same time, it's like for me, it's a risk. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of eyes on the player now because he's essentially on the news. He's cost £50 million, and for us, for me, it would have felt like it would have been a less of a risk if we paid that £50 million for the remainder years of his contract. But the fact is, we paid £35 million for the man we wanted, and it does look like a good deal, for Arsenal. But it's just good. I feel like there might be a lot of pressure on the player for absolutely no reason now. Because he doesn't dictate the price, does he? So it's a risk on both ends, 100%.
I feel Ben White's one of those players who will thrive under pressure, though. Because when I've watched him a lot, when he's getting pressure on the Brighton, he's able to easily control it. And of course, when he plays under Bielsa, you're gonna get used to being under pressure constantly, and the constant press, the constant. Yeah. Oh, 1 second. I've lost my train of thought.
We can come back to you, Gabby. Go for it, Nom, mate.
Like, for example, the way he's so composed on the ball, he's always all in. Like, even in the Rashford one where, it's the one where he's like got floored twice, essentially. He got straight back up and went to go straight all in. He's one of those players who are not scared of making a fool of himself. He's more of those who take one for the team and try and help the team concede less goals, which is something you really need in the defence. He's also a leader from what I've seen. He's very good at, he's not scared of demanding people or telling people off or showing his voice.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Nom?
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said to you guys, said it before, I've been following Ben White purely because I've got a lot of friends that I grew up with, and I grew up in Brighton. So I've got friends here who watch him. They sort of first alerted me to him. And I said to you guys, I watched him through the Leeds games. So I've been watching for a long time. And I said, initially, I couldn't see anything spectacularly special about him. Apart from that, he's very composed in the ball. And Bielsa was a massive fan. But as time's gone on, I've really been able to see how he's developed as a player. I was really impressed with him last year in Brighton. I was saying that, even within the club fan base in Brighton, they've got very good central defenders. But they rate him highly. They're, right at the very top. Even higher than Lewis Dunk. I think that he won the vote from the fans as the player of the year. The other thing with him, I think, is that if you look at the similarity in terms of what Brighton want to do in their build-up play and then how they sort of try to guard against attacks from transitions, he's an intelligent player, right? He understands what's being asked of him in different parts of the pitch. And I think the reason why Brighton survived last year was largely down to the fact that they could control transitions against them. And that's why they managed to sort of tighten their back. Their problem was that they create lots of chances and they couldn't score goals. And you have to give credit to all of those defenders because they obviously played a key role. And to be honest, going back to it, George, you have to give credit to Bissouma as well because he obviously played in that sort of what I would call the combat against transition, because I think that's a key sort of group of players that you need. You need to be able to sort of help control transition against your team. I mean, you're the most vulnerable when you're going forward in terms of a counter-attack. So what impressed me was how he reads the game and how brave he is as a player. So he doesn't have an issue with stepping out with the ball. He doesn't have an issue with taking players on if he feels like he can break lines and then sort of create and put a pass in. Look, he's a very intelligent player because it's a bit like the Tavares, when we were talking about that earlier on. If you're an opposing striker and you go and try to press this guy, it's a nightmare scenario because if you stand off this guy, he'll look up and you give him time to pass the ball. If you go to press him, he's got the ability to sidestep you and go around you. And he's got the pace to sort of beat you, right, and make you look stupid. So you're really stuck in two minds. What do you do against this guy? And I think that is key because if you remember when we played out from the back initially, teams didn't know what to do. Do they go full press and get caught? Or did they go and step off and let Arsenal start dominating possession and building up their play? So I think that is the dilemma, that we want to keep opposition attacks in terms of their defensive. Now, when they're getting into the shape to sort of try to press, what do? Coaches have to make decisions now and think about Arsenal a lot more when you've got a player like Ben White than compared to if you've got a Holding or a David Luiz.
Do you know why, Nam? It's because of simple technical security. People fear that. That's what you do when you increase the technical security of a back line. It's not just build up competency. It's this idea that I can't press you because of what you said, Nam, exactly. You'll make me look stupid. And look, I think I'll keep it short on Ben White because I've talked about him in the past. We had a great video that we produced a little bit earlier on Ben White. The one thing I will say on Ben White is he is a sweeper. And so when I'm looking at the implications from a partnership perspective, and I don't know if that's been said yet, Gabriel is, likely to be our partner, and he's likely the best pure defender, but he can be rash. He's a defender who likes to hit you from behind. Okay, he's definitely an aggressor in the partnership. Ben White isn't that. His natural instinct is to sweep, and why that is so complimentary and exciting for me really is when you guys compare Gabriel and Holding. I think a lot of people said, I don't like that partnership. But you know what it is for me? It wasn't so much communication. It was what his natural instincts are as a center back. They're both center backs. With Holding, by the way, he was much poorer quality, but he wants to hit you. He wants to arrive with you to the player. Ben White's much more of a sweeper. He's used to defending huge spaces. And by the way, he did it not just one season with Brighton. He did it with Leeds. Luke Ayling and, those fullbacks and how Bielsa plays a system, bomb on. And, Ben White is got 2 seasons now of 38-game seasons where he's defended acres of space in that right half space. He is absolutely perfect for what Mikel wants to do. I'm really excited about Ben White. I actually predict, and you can maybe quote this, that he's going to be worth a lot more than Maguire very, very soon. He is a player that right now is on the precipice of a big explosion. He isn't as small as what people say. Some of his faults, I will say, he's very flat-footed in the tackle. He's not bad in duels, but when he does get in duels, he's flat-footed. So he is kind of a stopper in that sense, and he's also quite poor aerially. But guess who's great? Gabriel. So the weaknesses in the 2 center backs right now are complemented really quite well. And yeah, you're right, Nam. Why I love Bissouma. Imagine that partnership. You would then solve the acre of space problem that allows Partey to step up because guess what? Both players have A, an understanding, but also B, the same kind of idea of playing. That becomes important, right? Like when we're looking at adaptation from foreign teams back in, a big part of the issue is why do these kind of signings work? It's because if they're doing this in alternative teams to when they come in, it's a lot easier for them to adapt regardless of league and whatnot. So I'm excited from Ben White. Let's get this done, and I think people will really like him.
Going back to the point which George said, he mentioned something about Holding and Gabriel both kind of clashing due to them both being aggressors. That's why I think him and Luiz got on so well, because Luiz was therefore more of a sweeper. And I feel Ben White's more mobile than David Luiz, which was, in my opinion, David Luiz's biggest issue, which is where Ben White has become perfect to what we need in a centre-back and the ideal option and profile of what we needed. And that's why I feel like Holding looked more competent next to Mari than he did next to Gabriel, because Mari's more of a calm, composed, sweeping centre-back. Meanwhile, Gabriel's a bit where he's going all in, like where he wants to take you down or hunt you down, whatever you like to call it.
Right. So any final thoughts on White, or can we move on to Maddison? Or is we good?
Yeah, but I think boys have pretty much covered all of it. I'm glad. Cool. I think it'd be a good sign.
Good. So final and central in the thumbnail, if you've seen the thumbnail already, is James Maddison for a reason. Go for it, lads. I'm going to leave this one to you.
I think Willow, you can go, mate. You start.
Yeah, you start, mate.
I've liked James Maddison from when he was at Norwich. I thought he's quite a different player to what he was at Norwich than what he's been at Leicester. But and what I guess Rodgers has kind of made him play a different type of way, and I'm interested to see what kind of player Arteta will end up if he'll try and mould him a bit more into his type of player. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we've struggled over the years with set piece takers. I think one of my biggest frustrations is we get a set piece and about 4 people go, can I have this? Can I have this? No. We need to have a certain set piece takeaways. I'm stepping up and I'm hitting this ball, and they're going to be doing most of the free kicks and corners a season, because I can't take another season where, 9 out of 10 of our corners don't beat the first man. And I think what James Maddison brings to that is he puts that ball on Gabriel's big head and he gets put in the back of the net a lot more than what we've been seeing. So I'm excited for that. I'm also excited to, the end product is going to be so much better. The final ball, I think people disrespect James Maddison's final ball. I think it's a lot better than what people think it is. Also, his ableness to be able to score outside the box. I think we've missed that over the last few years. Not many people can seem to score out the box for us, so I think he brings that. And he's also good on his left and right foot, so he's unpredictable. You don't know what, you can hit him on his left, you can hit him on his right. You don't know what he's going to do. So I'm excited for James Maddison if we do sign him.
One thing I've noticed as well, he can fit into multiple different systems from what I've seen him. He's been under many different managers. I don't think he's looked out of place in one system. So, for example, I feel like he would actually suit our system, because we always see like our forwards like Saka or something always making a run, and then we just don't have someone to deliver that final ball, which I feel like Maddis will also do that. And I saw a stat the other day where it was like shooting from outside the box, where we hardly did that last season, and Maddison has done it more than us last season and offers a lot more goals from outside the box. That's something we need, someone who's a lot more direct in the midfield play, and someone who's not scared, like someone who's like kind of fearless.
So with the I'm gonna quickly in going on this James Maddison thing. So what it does is it gives us an ability to go between a pure 10 or someone that can play as an 8. It gives us an ability to have a mentor for Emile Smith-Rowe, which I think he does need. I think we've put a lot of pressure on him. He's done very, very well. I'm very proud of Emile Smith-Rowe. But I think we need to be able to look at him and say, look, we have some help for you. You're not doing everything yourself. I think he's going to have an explosive season. Myself, you can see with the shots he was taking in this Rangers game that he's ready. He's here. It's time for Emile Smith-Rowe. But I do feel like if there is times when you need. What if he goes down? What if he goes down for a week or two? I fear we need someone that we can rely on week in, week out. And this notion that James Maddison is injury prone, nonsense. He's been one of the most impeccable injury records, apart from this lot past year, that obviously he has had a couple of injuries. But again, completely different types of completely unique season. Ability, the quarantines, the stop-start nature, the packing of the games. The man had a lot of games this season. Let's be real. And when you think of going back to a normal season, I want people to realize, in general, we're going to cover this tomorrow. We record the pod. When you're scouting, because tomorrow is a scouting pod. When you're scouting players, you have to look at more than one season. You can't just look at a season in a bubble and think, okay, this is how the player is. This is his profile. That's it. One season is one season. You have to look at the profile of the player. We have to look at the qualities of the player. You have to look at players over multiple games. And it's not something to say to defend him, but I think he's someone with a low backlift, great shooter, set piece taker, which we need. We need someone that can create centrally, because we lack a central. We lack a central figure in the 2-3-5. Someone that we can actually go and say, here's the ball. Find our inside forwards, find Alba, find Laka, find Saka, Pepe, or find Gabby and Emil. Go and find them, get them in, or go ping it wide to Tierney or to whoever our right back is. We need that central command center almost to be able to run our build up. So I think it's a great signing. I think if we can get it over the line, I'm done going. I don't want to talk about anything to do with any of the other players who are involved. Obviously, I like having options with Awar, but I think my main target is James Maddison. Awar, Maddison, these two players are my main targets. I'll throw it to George now. Go for it, mate.
Really quickly with James Maddison, because there's a lot of, and I'll say it, lies that have been said about his creativity. And, fundamentally, when you look at James Maddison, Okay, one of the things I want to let everyone know is he's all your statistics that you keep quoting, by the way, he did from center mid. He did not do from the attacking point. So when you're looking at his season, 105 shot creating actions, when you're looking at him, he had the highest number of long passes per match. That includes people in Europe, from Neymar and Alejandro Gomez, who's from Atlanta. He also displays a 70% dribble success, where he completes 1.4 dribbles per 90, where the average for cams, not center mids, but cams, is 0.9. What does that tell you? Like, he is an absolute complete playmaker in a sense where he's able to dribble, he's able to pass. And by the way, his best partnership in the last 2 years came from Jamie Vardy. Who is Jamie Vardy similar to? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So when you're talking about trying to get somebody that now completes our squad in terms of where it lacks, but also helps players that are already here, players that we need fit and firing again, it becomes very important that you buy a player that is used to a runner, a player that is used to creating for somebody that is between the lines and likes to attack space. Now, when I look at Emile Smith-Rowe, everyone knows I love this kid. I love this kid immensely. But fundamentally, what he lacks at this current moment in time is not tempo control. It's not attacking space. What he is lacking right now is output. And I don't think he'll never get it, but fundamentally what he is lacking is goals. And I think his shots, we talked about it earlier in the stream, it's coming. He's shooting more, but he doesn't have the power. Yeah. So if I'm looking at Emile as a profile and what does he solve, and what would say an Aouar solve, who, by the way, I also love, but simply lacks is shot power. It is actual output in also set piece threat, something that, hitting our front man on the first corner, that can't happen continuously. In terms of looking at a set piece free kick threat, we now gain one. We didn't have one previously. If you look at kind of his output, he guarantees you 10 goal and assists from midfield. Do we have that? We do not. And does an Aouar solve that? I don't think so. I've seen much more output consistently from James Maddison than I have in Aouar. The only issue I would have in Aouar over a James Maddison is under the pretense that we don't have money and we can't afford a James Maddison, which, by the way, lads, I don't know about you, but spending this much money, including bids on Locatelli, if that doesn't tell you we have the money to afford a James Maddison, I don't know what to tell you. So he solves everything on a footballing pitch, but I just want to end in the last 30 seconds of this on his mentality. If you watch any James Maddison interview, this is an absolute person that is a little bit of a dick maybe in his personal life, but somebody that is focused on excelling.
I love him. I don't care.
But we need that current. And you know what? I'm asking people realistically, who is the leader of this team? Who is the person that will accept the ball, accept responsibility, and wants the limelight? We need James Maddison just as much as he needs us, by the way. He needs his reputation to come back. He wants to get back in the England squad. We're looking at a player that was bubbling. Regardless of what you say, he is somebody that has very similar creating statistics with Houssam Aouar. And I need somebody that is willing to be the project. I need somebody that will lead us into the future. And I need that arrogance. I really do. Watch his interview with Thierry Henry. I learned a lot from that. Watch his interview with Sky Sports. You learn a lot about this mentality of player that is willing to work on his craft. And that is important. I don't care what the hell he does off the pitch. Do I like that Aubameyang wraps his Lamborghini in gold? No, I don't. I don't like that. It's not me. But I don't care if he's scoring. Okay, look, I get that there's some issues, but I just want people to be fair about what James Maddison solves, in improving Aubameyang, in terms of his creativity, adding output, and then finally, his mentality. That's the perfect quartet.
Yeah. So Z, I want you to go, mate, because I know you are someone that loves James Maddison. So go for it, mate.
I mean, I've been listening to you, all you guys, and guys have very valid points and very valid footballing points. I think, footballing aside, there's a good reason as to why we should sign a player like Maddison. I think what we're seeing, through the links as well. I think Arteta's trying to build like a British core again in the team, and we can see with the signings of Ben White, we already have Saka, we have Emile Smith-Rowe. He's trying to bring a few of the English boys in from the youth. Gave Kiddo a contract as well. We can see that he very much wants a British core with some of the intercontinental lads as well as the French and the Germans. If we sign any, but the fact is, I think signing James Maddison makes him the pinpoint of that main guy in that British core that he's trying to build. And I think that's really important because that's something that James Maddison would probably be very excited about. The fact that he would probably be the main guy in that British core, and that franchise, that franchise thing that we keep on banging on about. He would get that with everything. So that'll be good for his brand. He will get his England plays back for
hopefully, 100%,
yeah, 100% sure. So why wouldn't a player like Maddison want to come in? And to be fair, he's already been telling people through the club that he wants to join Arsenal. So there's no doubt about his there's no doubt about him wanting to join Arsenal. It's just a matter of if Arsenal meet what Leicester want, and
yeah.
to be fair, they don't really have a leg to stand on, because fact is they don't really want to keep Maddison.
Yeah.
And I think their team has probably moved away from Maddison. He's not essentially their franchise player, their main player. They bought a few players in. I think they're very much more focused towards a 4-4-2 now. So I don't see where Maddison fits in. They bought Samari in as well. Yeah, I think it's
watch George Face's fall. Trying to mention Samari.
I called it. I said a 4-4-2 was coming back into the game. That's all.
Yeah, see, can I ask you a question on that link?
Yeah, go on.
No, sorry, bro. You finish your point, and then I'll ask it.
I was going to ask George, what if, in a hypothetical world, what if we said to Leicester, okay, you sign Samare and you give us Maddison? What would you say to that?
I'd cry because I love Samari. I see it though.
Mate, literally, I saw the life leave his eyes. It was sad, man. Yeah, Samari.
George, objectively though, would you say that would be the right move for the club if they did forego going after someone like Samari if they could get Maddison? This is all hypothetical, by the way.
For me, this team loses more without a Maddison than a Samari. So yes,
yeah,
for where we are
that's what I'm saying.
right now, but not. Yeah. But it really, I really struggle when the likely Xhaka purchase is going to be less than Samari, right? So I really do want to critique the club on that. But again, like you said, if I had to choose, who do we need at their pomp right now, Maddison or Samari? I think we need a Maddison right now more.
I was going to ask Azee a question. Azee, do you know anything about him returning to training? Because I don't think he returned to training with the rest of the Leicester lads.
No, I have no idea. I think he has some personal stuff going on with his wife or girlfriend being pregnant and stuff. So there's probably got a few days off because of that. Really, I don't want to look too much into that. But yeah, I mean that's got probably nothing to do with the Arsenal move, but very much he's told his friends that Arsenal's very much interested. We've even seen that tweet from that Love Island guy, that he could very much join Arsenal. So I don't know. It's looking very good. I just don't want to put my hopes up and then cry at the end.
Have you had any developments on it yourself? Have you heard anything else apart from?
There's no developments in that sense. The only development I've heard is that we're ready to bid. That's all we're ready to bid.
And to be fair to Z, guys, I don't think you're going to get developments until that CM is sorted logically. Get Xhaka out the door, and that CM is a smaller purchase in price, so it's dependent on a James Maddison. It's the same issue that we had last year. You need to sort the rate limiting step purchase first before you get your big one. So we won't get developments until we get that CM. In my opinion,
you did not just say rate limiting step. Did you just say? Did you just say rate limiting step?
Yeah,
George, come on, man. I love you, bro. You kill me sometimes. I swear to God, man. Man said rate limiting step like it's GCSE chemistry again. Like, God damn it, man. But yeah. Go on. Willow, I ain't heard from you in a while, bro. Tell me about some James Maddison. What are you feeling? Oh, Willow? You there, buddy? Maybe not. All right, go
Gabby?
on. Go on, Nom. Or Gabby. Whoever. Go.
Gabby, you go for it, buddy. I'll just there isn't much for me to sum up.
Oh.
I think it's you, Nom.
Okay, all right then.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, look, for me, I think I agree with a lot of what George was saying about Maddison in terms of his profile. I think if you look at our Hale End boys, they're what I would call quietly confident kids. They're humble. I think when you get a player like Maddison who really believes in his ability, that has a positive effect on them in a different way. As long as they don't pick up his out of hours behaviour, which I don't think they will, because I don't think that's their sort of MO. But I think they will be impressed with his inner belief and him not being shy about expressing how confident he is in his abilities. I think that is important. I mean, I've seen all the great players that play for our club have always had that outward belief about their ability and what they sort of can contribute to the team and the squad. So for me, if he comes in, and if you think about the rumours that we heard that his wages is going to be doubled, etc., he'll be the highest paid British player in our squad, right?
220k.
Yeah,
No, he's not going to be the highest paid player, but he's close.
So therefore, he's going to become one of the leaders of the team. And I think what excites him the most, I don't think he can do that at Leicester. Leicester have got a much more experienced squad than we have. And he can come in and lead, or potentially lead, or be one of the leaders of a much younger squad, right? With players that I know he's been looking at. Because the thing that impressed me the most was sometimes players can be quite insular. Outside of football, they can just worry about where they're going to go and spend the holidays or what car they're buying, etc. He actually literally looks around and takes time to. I remember an interview where he said that he was looking at Saka and he liked what he saw. I think he met him up in the England camp a couple of times. And this is the thing. So this is a guy who understands his football, who pays attention to it. It's for him, I think the biggest attraction for me, if I was looking through his eyes, is working with a young coach like Arteta, who can sort of develop his game and sort of challenge him to go to the next level, because I think that's what he wants. That's what Maddison wants. He wants to challenge himself to push his technical boundaries as he has them now to the next level. And I think playing in this sort of system that we've got set up will allow him to do that. So I think that in itself are all the contributing factors that will push him to a club like ourselves, right? And I know that might wind up Leicester fans, but the truth is, I think if Leicester fans need to say, I mean, look, they might not rate us very highly as a club, but the truth, in fact, is Chilwell didn't leave for any particular, any reason apart from going to a bigger profile club. Maguire didn't, Mahrez didn't. So I don't understand why they've suddenly decided they're going to feel aggrieved because of Arsenal. I mean, I think it's great I think maybe it's the younger fans, but if you ask any of the older Leicester fans, they'll be embarrassed by that kind of behaviour, to be frank.
Right, on that note, everyone's social will be in the description below. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Love the support. This is by far our most views on a live so far. But thank you everyone for coming. I've got stuff to do, and I'm sure everyone else does. But thank you a lot for coming. Appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah. He means bye.
Yeah, thank you everybody for